Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to. This is one of those movies that doesn't even need an introduction. I don't need to say anything about it. All you gotta do is look at the fucking cover. If you didn't laugh your ass off looking at this, then call the insane asylum, they've been looking for you.
I'm gonna tally how many times he says, if you like this movie, you're insane. We're already at number 1.
I think that was supposed to be a joke. I don't really think that Walker actually believes that.
This is Zeus and Roxanne.
I was disappointed when the critic didn't go, Roxanne! Roxanne!
So, for all of those who always wanted to see Flipper meets Lassie, get some fucking help!
Number 2. I'll say this right here at the beginning. Just because a movie's concept is bad doesn't mean the movie instantly will be. Imagine if Spider-Man, the comic book, movie, video games, whatever, never were liked because of the concept. Oh, some man is a spider and a man at the same time, and he shoots webs from his hands? What the hell?
Are you trying to compare a concept of a man getting superpowers and using those powers to stop evil to a rather odd interspecies relationship that seems more like a parody of a kid's film? You know, there's concept, and then there's execution.
For the rest of us, this is Zeus and Roxanne. So we open up with a pretty sunrise over the ocean. Yeah! This movie sucks! You got totally screwed!
Did you even see the poster?
And you paid money for this.
This movie, if you couldn't tell, is rated PG. Meaning it can appeal to children. You are about a 30-year-old man. I don't think you were the targeted audience. Also, that's 3.
Just because a movie is appealing to children does not mean that it's exempt from critical analysis.
But surely there's some human characters to balance out the insipidness of the story.
Insipid means dull. You seem quite energetic about being angry about a dog and a dolphin being friends. If the movie really was boring, you probably wouldn't be getting all angry about it. Yawning maybe, but not freaking out.
Which would I rather see? Someone yelling and ranting in a comedic fashion, or somebody yawning for an entire 20 minutes?
I smell some dinner!
Breakfast.
I knew that.
You've been up all night again, huh?
Sorry, I just that, I've been working on this melody and...
What, did he marry this kid or something? He's cooking for him, he's trying to be responsible for him? Who knew owning a Steve Gutenberg would be so much work?
Do I have to explain this?
I don't see why you would, but okay.
Fine. When parents are divorced and a kid is with one parent, possibly the lazy parent, the kid has to do some work to help keep the house afloat. Much more than he would have to if the parents worked together.
I think he was trying out this thing called, jokes.
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth.
Excuse me, my forced, wide-eyed whimsicalness seems to follow me to every performance.
It's what we call an awkward moment, critic. An awkward moment.
He was making fun of Steve Gutenberg's acting, Shadowstar. Steve Gutenberg's acting.
Me, Terry. You?
Judith.
You?
Nora.
Oh wait, you forgot to make that charming or clever.
I don't think you understand what a joke is.
I honestly don't think that you do.
Not every movie has to be all action-y, you know.
Where do you get the impression that he wanted the movie to be all action-y? He just pointed out that what Gutenberg just said wasn't clever or witty.
This scene wasn't that funny, I admit.
That was the point that he was trying to make.
But you're acting like they actually meant to do that. Purposely. Like in real life.
Like in real life? What are you talking about? He was just saying that the scene wasn't really funny.
Be careful, viewers. That was the first of many interspecial relationship jokes.
Those are the worst kinds of jokes you can make.
Dolphin! Dolphin! I'm a dog who's horny for a dolphin! Don't ask me why, I just want a dolphin! Dolphin!
This movie, like I said, is rated PG. The dog is not horny for the dolphin. Just because it's a female dolphin does not mean that the dog is horny for the dolphin.
Calm down. It's a joke. Don't be so angry about it.
Besides, if they were horny for each other and they wanted to be together, why is that such a problem?
Well, if you look at their ecosystems and their anatomy... Why am I explaining this to you?
Homosexuals are accepted in today's society, so why not them, if they loved each other?
This is the first time I ever used a Nostalgia Critic clip in one of my commentaries. You do know there's a difference between two humans being in love with each other and two animals from different species being in love with each other, right?
So are species-confused canine...
I'm only gonna say this one more time. Friendship does not equal sex.
But it's not friendship, it's love!
So when it looks like their research is over, they pull up the anchor and take off. Yes! 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 That was awesome! Let's see that again! Oh my god! I can watch that 1,000,000 times! Thank you for that movie, I really needed that. Okay, continue to suck now.
I mean this in the lightest way possible, but Douglas Walker, are you on medication?
Douglas Walker has stated that the Nostalgia Critic is essentially a human version of Daffy Duck. In layman's terms, it's a character that he's portraying. You ever notice that if you act a certain way, some people might think you're on drugs or medication? What's wrong with acting eccentric just for the sake of being eccentric?
Good lord, who knew a dolphin punch was so deadly? Why couldn't we get those things at Pearl Harbor? They would have saved the day. Oh, we shall bomb the harbor and... Oh my god, giant dolphin!
Assuming that a dolphin can jump that high.
Wow! I did not know that Shitty McNitpick does commentaries.
So it turns out not only do the dog and the dolphin like each other, but they can also communicate with each other.
Something tells me that he really likes to joke.
This, of course, leads to more quirky, awkward talk from our romantic leads.
Everything you have said pointed that Zeus and Roxanne were in love. And now you're saying the main romantic lead is Gutenberg and Mary Beth.
Well, if anything, the whole dog and dolphin relationship just feels like a gimmick in order to get people to fill in seats.
Mary Beth and Gutenberg seem to hit it off quite well. By the movie standards. For the rest of us, it's like watching a bad episode of Blind Date.
This Claude guy. Do you see him?
Every day. He's a head honcho at the Institute. I used to be his assistant.
Yeah, I don't know why the screen cuts off. I guess it's widescreen to full screen or something.
It's cool, baby. I still love you.
But we had a parting of the ways.
Would it be tactless to ask over what?
Third party?
Oh, I apologize. Never mind. I didn't.
A dolphin.
You were talking about how the villain takes too long to talk about his grant, and yet at the same time, now you're talking too much about Blind Date. I mean, we got the joke.
It's one thing to see how many jokes you can fit in the style of a Blind Date episode at the movie's expense. And it's another thing to have the villain just stand there going,
I'll tell you what she's doing. She's trying to steal my grant. Well, that's just not going to happen. No, sir.
So after Gutenberg and Mary Beth make it to first base,
I'm surprised you didn't complain about the kids' poker scene for 10 minutes.
Can you blame him? He can't see there, no he can't see there, but... You gotta stop making Lady Gaga references.
see our villain trying to sneak a peek at her research. What is he doing with his lips? What, they turned to Beaker from the Muppets for a second?
My assumption is that he was mumbling inaudibly.
If you think this is annoying, then check out his commentary on Zach Galifianakis.
At what age do you tell a highway it was adopted? I think around 7, because they start thinking, I don't look like the Kiwanis Club.
I think you're getting highways and orphans mixed up, because last time I checked, highways were not sentient beings.
Hey, speaking of which, we haven't seen much of them, have we? I mean, we're at the hour mark here, and we've only had 2 scenes with the animals together. One was only 10 minutes, and the other was under 5. They should have just called this movie Gutenberg and Mary Steenburgen look-alike. That would have been more accurate.
Remember that he said that.
Okay. Intermission.
Check this shit out!
Intermission over.
Are we doing this for us? Are we doing this for the Rockland Foundation? Are we doing it for the kids?
All of the above.
I don't know.
I think you missed a line. You're supposed to say I'm having second thoughts, you're supposed to say why, and then you say, okay, you don't know.
Maybe Gutenberg means that he's not sure whether or not they really are doing it for all of the above.
So, in other words, he's having second thoughts.
So, because Gutenberg doesn't know, he decides he wants to move away and take Zeus and Jordan with him. This leads to the most groundbreaking question that this movie, any movie has ever asked in the history of man.
If a dog and a dolphin can get along, why can't our mom and his dad?
Oh my God! It was so simple all this time. The dog and the dolphin. We must look to the dog and dolphin. Yes, quickly, give me everybody in the world. They all need to hear this.
If a dog and a dolphin can get along, why can't our mom and his dad?
So he's talking to some guy, and then out of the phone comes the "if a dog and a dolphin" line. Logically, he would have played like some sound speaker right next to the phone, and the sound speaker would say the line, right? Because he's trying to tell him, not us, about that line. I mean, it's not like the person that he's talking to and the "if a dog and a dolphin" line sound, wherever it came from the other side of the phone, are sharing the same phone, are they?
This is beyond shitty nitpick territory. His videos are supposed to give the impression that he's watching the movie and giving his reaction towards the camera in the same direction. So when he's calling people in order to hear what the movie just said, he's pointing it forward so that the people on the other line can hear what he just heard.
Yes, I know! Let them know! Let them all know.
Being overly dramatic only works if the content that you're working on is overly dramatic about such a small thing as well. For example, you're being overly dramatic about this movie. I could play To the Vault all over again if you want me to.
Being overly dramatic about something that isn't overly dramatic happens all the time in comedy. The contrast between the two makes people laugh. Also, joke! If anything, that whole ordeal was to emphasize how dumb of a line that was.
I don't even get it. Why couldn't they just leave the dog? This makes no sense. A gigantic scientific breakthrough totally destroyed because Gutenberg doesn't know what he's looking for. Boo-hoo-hoo.
You yourself said it looked stupid. And now you're saying, oh, it's a scientific breakthrough. Hooray. You confuse me, critic.
Even if the premise of a dog and a dolphin falling in love is stupid, the movie treats it as a scientific breakthrough that these two animals can fall in love with each other. But even if you could see past the concept of a dog and a dolphin being ridiculous, someone would still be confused as to why Gutenberg wouldn't just leave the dog. They aren't injecting the dog with anything, they're not putting him through animal testing or all that stuff. They're just observing the communication skills between a dog and a dolphin. Here's the problem, Shadowstar. The movie hardly explains why they're in love. It just concentrates more on the human characters than the dog and the dolphin. That's why your Spider-Man comparison falls flat, because at least Spider-Man does a lot with its concept. Once again, there's concept, and then there's execution.
Right. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Not a bad plan to sabotage the competition, but I like his other one better. Now that would be awesome!
I'm gonna ask you to stop. Two characters are played by the same actor, but they're two different characters.
That was like the second time he mentioned that. It wasn't like he did that throughout the entire review.
So as the bad guy tries to lure Roxanne in, we find that Roxanne is one step ahead of their game. Dolphin punch!
How come you didn't say that looked so fake?
Well, he was too busy saying, "Dolphin, punch!" Plus, I think he has enough confidence in his viewers to find that out on their own.
I think she wants you to follow her.
Yeah, I think she also said bring an oxygen tank, you dumbass.
Oh, hold on! I can't stay down here long because I didn't bring an oxygen tank!
Give me a knife!
Critic, he went up for a knife.
Oh, he knows. He was just pointing out that Gutenberg is saving someone underwater, and he didn't even think to bring an oxygen mask. And he's on a boat owned by a marine biologist. Someone who you may assume owns an oxygen mask, considering that she does most of her studies underwater, so...
Whoop, gotta go up again! You know, maybe I could save precious time if I just put on one of those oxygen tanks. Or maybe even brought one down for you to breathe through. But what do I know? I'm Steve Gutenberg.
Okay, now he went up for air.
Yeah, but maybe he could have gone up for an oxygen... Why do I even try?
This film is shit, plain and simple! We don't see much of the dog and Dolphin together.
You spent about a total of 1/3 of the video, which is about 6 minutes, complaining about how the dog and the dolphin are together, and then at the very end, you turn around and say, "Oh, the dog and the dolphin aren't together so much!"
If the premise of a movie is supposed to be a dog and a dolphin having a relationship, then they should concentrate more on the dog and dolphin's relationship. But let's be honest, what can you do with a premise like that? It's pretty weak to begin with. Shadowstar, I know that you're entitled to your opinion and all, but why do you feel it necessary to defend a movie that doesn't even seem to care about its own premise? This movie is nothing more than a Hollywood cash-in with family movie cliches stuffed into it.
I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to.
Just like CGS01's Shadow the Hedgehog review, this video completely smashed what credibility I had in you. Even if I didn't watch the movie, or if I didn't like it as a kid, I probably still would have made the commentary. All you do is make bestiality jokes every single turn.
Every turn? Well, we must have been watching 2 different reviews. And can you blame him for making fun of the movie? It's a dog and a dolphin. You might as well go with an alligator and a rabbit.
And then, at the very end, you say, "Oh, there isn't enough bestiality." Seriously.
If they were going to have an odd concept in the first place, then they might as well have gone somewhere with it. But they hardly did. It just seems like an odd family-safe device to get Gutenberg and marine biologists together. And yes, I don't remember their names because I don't want to. Well, I guess we all learned a valuable lesson today. You can have an odd concept, but it all depends on how you execute that concept. Also, it's a dog and a dolphin! I'm Madison Skull. I commented on it so you don't have to. You saw what I did there? I was trying to be cute and funny.
That movie nut here with a commentary. Now, I already did a video on the subject of Nostalgia Critic, and I admit, while he is far from terrible, he has been gradually going downhill, using stale jokes and idiotic arguments, as well as perhaps taking the films a little too seriously, even for comedic intentions.
Gee, you know, when there are long audio issues like this, I tend to think that this is the result of somebody who didn't check their video and make sure it was okay. But maybe that's just me being silly, right?
Rail of Doug's entire reviewing career. So I'm going to be the master of irony and use the Phantom as my avatar for this commentary. So what else is there to say, people? Grab your popcorn, sit down comfortably, and get ready to witness the most epic fail incarnate that is Nostalgia Critic's The Phantom Review. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember it? So you don't have to. Let's talk about the Phantom. No, not that Phantom. Definitely not that Phantom. No, believe it or not, there's actually something far worse than Gerard Butler singing. Almost.
Do I really have to do this? Oh boy. You know what, let's just get on with this. This is not going to be any less painful if we don't.
This is the Billy Zane version.
Hold on. What do you mean the Billy Zane version? Phantom of the Opera and the Phantom have nothing to do with each other. Perhaps you knew this, but you said it the wrong way. The Phantom was created by Lee Falk. The Phantom of the Opera was created by Gaston Leroux.
Billy Zane is the name of the actor who played the Phantom in this film. And the critic knows there's no connection between Phantom of the Opera and the Phantom. It was just a joke.
Based on the 1930s comic strip, the
1930s comic strip? That's a little vague, isn't it, considering that he's a character with over 80 years of history and is still very popular in Sweden and Australia, I might add. Isn't that kind of like saying that Batman was a 1930s comic book character even though he's still around?
And your point serves what purpose again? All the critic was doing was pointing out that the film was based on the original comics. Is there something so wrong with that?
Phantom is a very old superhero that definitely shows its age. I mean, I could see this being made in the 50s or even the 30s, like when the comic strip came out. But
how the hell does this look like a film from the 50s or the 30s? Critic, have you even watched a film from the 50s or the 30s? Because this looks nothing like those. Not just in terms of the film quality, but of the types of camera angle used and the types of special effects used. And as a joke, it wasn't funny either.
Pay attention before you comment. All the critic was saying was that the original comics, what this movie was based on, had aged quite a bit. He was not saying that this looked like a 50s movie. Nor was he intending to make a joke.
90s? Hey, we bought a lot of shit during that decade, but this was really pushing it.
Oh yeah, because Independence Day was completely logical compared to this. Yeah, okay, whatever.
So, let's see why this purple sack of shit reaches all sorts of new blows. This is the Phantom.
And now we will witness why this is perhaps your worst review ever, Douglas.
So the movie, oddly enough, begins with this saying, for those who came in late? Wouldn't that be better in the middle of the movie?
It's an in-joke to the old serials where they would always recap at the beginning. If you were such a film buff, Doug, you would know this.
All began a very long time ago. A small boy watched helplessly as his father was killed by the pirate leader, Cabai Singh.
Oh yeah, because the way that Jack Napier smiled in Batman made it so not obvious that he was going to be the Joker, didn't it?
Dude, what the hell are you talking about? The joke there was that the character's name sounds like Can I Sing? That's why the subtitle says, I don't know, can you? It was a rimshot joke. What's this crap you're spewing about obvious villains?
He jumped overboard and was washed ashore on a mysterious jungle island called Bengala.
So yeah, it's your typical killed father revenge backstory. Except in this version, he's picked up by natives, who decide to give him a ring of unbelievable power. Why they give him this ring, I have no idea. But did nobody else want it? Nobody was interested in a ring of unbelievable power.
You're seriously gonna ask for logic in a comic book film. And also, if you did any research into the comics books, you would know that they gave him this because he saved the tribe from oppression at the hands of another tribe. A few minutes on Wikipedia or any kind of comic book site will show you that.
And here is the beginning of Savage Broadcast's reoccurring flaw. Broadcast firmly believes that in order to critique a film, you need to know the source material. This, however, is insipid and redundant, as the source material isn't what's being reviewed. For example, if a film critic goes to review a Harry Potter movie, he doesn't need to have read the book because he's reviewing the film, not the book. Furthermore, if one has to do research in order to understand something in the movie, that in and of itself says that the movie is flawed. So long story short, the film never explaining why they give him the ring is a giant plot hole. I apologize for that long-winded explanation, but I felt the need to explain because from here on out you're going to hear Savage Broadcast try and use the same bullshit argument that the critic needs to do research and read the comics when the comics aren't what are being reviewed. And since he constantly repeats himself, rather than stopping and remarking why this comic argument is bullshit, I decided to just get it out of the way now, and from here on out, all you're going to see is a counter each time he brings it up. The only exception is when he says something that I feel is out of line or just stupid.
Oh, come on, nobody wants a ring of unbelievable power? Nobody wants a ring of unbelievable power? Oh, hey, a washed-up white kid. Cut to years later as a band of thieves, I guess, kidnap this little boy to get them through the jungle to find a treasure skull.
Well, now I get it. Turn the map around. You got it upside down, you big moron.
If the map's upside down, then there ought to be a bridge up ahead. And all I see is more jungle.
Oh, shit!
Look out! The punchline!
No sudden stops. What's the big idea?
So they reach their destination as the kid is afraid to go any further.
He says we can't go on. These woods are protected.
Protected by who?
Hamwezi kuendelea mbili.
By a ghost. Or what? The ghost who walks.
A ghost who walks? By God! That's almost as scary as a ghost who does anything other than walks!
Two things. That wasn't funny, and it was in the comic books, okay?
So they tie up the kid and throw him in the back of the truck as they venture forward into the cave. A guy in a fedora hat looking in a booby-trapped cave for ancient treasure that's in the shape of a golden head? Thank God I'm unbelievably stupid. Or I just might have made a connection to Raiders of the Lost Ark. But nope, I'm just a dummy who wants to see the bad guy from Titanic wear purple spandex. Don't look at me funny.
Oh yes, because that sequence was so original, even though the Indiana Jones is based off the old serials and comic books, and the Phantom had been doing that sort of stuff going into booby-trap caves long before Indy, and the whole thing of booby-trap cave treasures was in serials and films that predated Raiders. Okay, it's not a concept that was invented in Raiders, it was just made famous by it.
While I will agree that the concept isn't original, something that needs to be addressed is that the Phantom and Raiders of the Lost Ark have the same writer. With that in mind, it becomes a little disappointing when working on a new project, the writer couldn't think of a way to make Phantom's action scenes a little more distinct. As the scenes in this film don't just look similar, they look almost identical to Indiana Jones. Can you see why that's a little disappointing to some people?
Get ready, people. Perhaps the worst joke in the history of internet comedy is coming up. 3, 2, 1.
Oh no.
Is it any sillier than a man who dresses up as a bat? Or an alien who dresses up in red and blue spandex with a big S on the front?
I'm sorry, it's the purple Hamburglar. I mean, how is anyone supposed to look at that and take it seriously?
Oh yeah, because you can take a man who wears red and blue spandex with a big S on the front seriously.
Look out! It's the gayest thing you've ever seen!
I don't even get it. Why purple? How does purple blend into anything in the jungle? In fact, how does purple blend into anything, period? Actually, I think they did a survey recently asking Army recruits what was the best kind of camouflage. And their response was, not fucking purple. I just don't get it. I can't fucking get it.
Because if you did your research, again, a few minutes on Wikipedia, or if you're not such a tight-ass Burke, you would go down to your comic shop, and you would know that the Phantom is that way because his costume is based after a demon god.
Guy.
Somebody I already killed.
What?
You heard me. I killed him years ago.
Well, guess what? He's back.
But only a ghost can do that. A ghost who walks. Seriously, outside of Pac-Man, how many fucking purple ghosts have you ever heard of? Wow, look at that. This in no way resembles an action scene from one of the most famous adventure movies of all time. Or maybe it does, but it certainly loses all dignity once you put your main character in a purple costume.
Again, the Phantom was fighting bad guys in that style long before Indiana Jones. And again, there were fights inside of trucks and cars long before Indiana Jones, okay? Indiana Jones just made it more famous.
So the Phantom saves the boy, but unfortunately the bad guy escapes. So we cut to the Phant Cave.
It's called the Skull Cave. It's the ancestral home of the Phantom. Again, a little bit of research.
As he looks for information on the skull, while his faithful boy servant tends to his needs.
He's not a boy. He's called Guran, and he was a lifelong friend of the Phantom. I really don't want to have to keep repeating the whole research thing.
It's probably not as gross as it sounds, but I'm not denying anything either.
The skulls of Tuganda. When placed together, the 3 skulls harness an energy 1,000 times greater than any force or high explosive known to man. For 4 centuries, there's been no trace to them. It's good as new.
Very well, Ghost who walks.
Really? He has to call him Ghost Who Walks? You know, how about something more appropriate, like Man Who Wears Eyeshadow, or Spirit Who Should Put on a Shirt, or Guy Who Tee-hee-hee, I'm so sorry, I just can't get past that stupid purple costume. But oh well.
Wait a minute. What did you just do?
Yeah, I'm so sorry, I just can't get past that stupid purple costume. But oh well.
You skipped over the ghost subplot about the Phantom's murdered father. You cut out an important subplot in the film and a big part of the Phantom mythos. Wow. Doug, congratulations, you have just sunk to a new low. It's one thing when you insult childhood memories. It's another thing when you decide to, oh, I don't know, lie about the...
Look! You made a good point! It's just too bad I can count all of them in this commentary on one hand. And the rest is just you repeating the same bullshit point over and over. And you're also going to say things later on that I can use to bite you in the ass. We'll get to that when we get to that, won't we?
A young adventurer named Diana Palmer was trying to help her uncle prove that an evil businessman named Drax is tampering in piracy.
He's on a quest for a supernatural power.
And it turns out that Drax is on a quest and is super evil as well, as this scene where he confronts a traitor demonstrates to us.
Oh yeah, because when he was talking to Diana's uncle at the party, he seemed so totally normal, didn't he?
Requests for access to special collections come directly to me. I'm the only one who sees them.
Well, good. Thanks so much for coming.
Not at all.
Oh, one more thing if you don't mind.
Your murder!
I'd like your professional opinion on something under this microscope. Well, I guess you won't be needing these anymore.
Now, again, why didn't he just shoot this guy? I mean, at first I thought it was to maybe cover up his tracks, but how do you explain death by killer microscope?
Oh yeah, because the Joker never tried to dousing them with acid from a flower or blowing smiling gas at them. No, he always shot people, didn't he?
You seem to be forgetting that the Joker is insane, and as a result, we expect him to murder like that. We expect him to kill in nonsensical, complex, and overly complicated ways. We don't see that character trait in this villain. As a result, that killer microscope bit just seemed redundant, and in the long run, just doesn't make sense for his personality. And before you try and say it's a comic book movie, that does not excuse bad writing.
The plane that was carrying Diana gets ambushed by air pirates. It turns out they've come specifically for her, as we see the leader of the pirates is... Oh snap.
Really? You're really gonna do that? Critic, put some effort in.
Hey, he's putting some effort into something. I'm sorry, that's all I can think of when I get to this point of the commentary. But back to business. Since this commentary is already long enough as it is, and it's going to be even longer by the end of this, I'm going to cut ahead a little bit since he doesn't speak for a while, okay?
Let's see just how stealth a man in a purple suit can really be. Well, that didn't take very long now, did it? Worst escape ever.
Oh yeah, because Indiana Jones never walked into a room full of bad guys. And it's not like any other comic book film had a superhero walking into a room full of bad guys. I mean, what was that whole thing about in Batman 89 where he walked up into a belfry and there were tons of guards?
Relax! Small world, huh?
Too small for two of us.
But his wolf named Devil helps him escape as Diana... Oh, God, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I could see Yosemite Sam falling for that, but a real-life person? Come on, it's really pushing it.
Yeah, real-life people in a comic book movie. That makes a lot of sense.
My good man, just because it is a comic book movie does not excuse it for having incredibly stupid people. In fact, if anything, that shows a very poor amount of effort put into adapting a script.
So they fight off the bad guys and escape by using one of the boat planes, and he just sort of leaves the wolf behind. Well, that's nice. Real nice. What the hell is he supposed to do? Catch a cab back to the island?
They're on the same island, stupid. And also, Devil is a trained wolf. He knows how to get back to the cave. Again, few minutes on the internet or going to your comic book shop, you would learn this. Okay, so far you're showing that you didn't do a drop of research at all. Well, that's nice. Thank you for destroying 2 childhood icons as well as perhaps 2 of the coolest animals in the history of comic books. Bravo, critic, bravo.
Oh, I don't know. I thought the joke was okay, especially because the film doesn't adequately explain and makes it look like he did leave the wolf behind. And before you try and use that same little do your research argument, refer back to my counterpoint at the beginning of the video.
But it turns out their gas is leaking. So, get this. The horse and the wolf catch up with the plane. Are these just like the fastest fucking animals in the world? Look at all this shit they have to go through to catch up to them. A goddamn cheetah from Krypton wouldn't be that fast.
Again, they're trained animals and they know the island. Again, few minutes on the internet wouldn't kill you.
That doesn't change the fact that this still logically doesn't make any sense. And if you try to use the excuse, well, it's a comic book movie, that still means that this was a bad adaptation if it can't fill a plot hole like that.
So long, Toots, you're on your own! I'm sure there's some flat area in the mountains you can land that thing, and... oh, you want to come with it? Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah, because Superman never let Lois Lane fall nearly go to her death when they were flying, did he?
And on that honestly useless comment, we end part 1 of Savage Broadcast commentary. And we still have a whole 15 minutes worth left. Well, no point delaying. Let's get started, shall we? And yes, to save time, I am cutting the intro, which was only about 5 seconds, but whatever. Let's go.
And the car catches up with them too? Good lord, the Roadrunner on speed wouldn't be able to go as fast as these guys! Your blood must be made out of grounded up Jesse Owens!
Oh yeah, because the Nazis in Indiana Jones never managed to catch up with Indy after he suddenly made a miraculous escape, did they?
Thankfully, he comes across a helpful tribe that we'll never see again, as the Phantom tries to get Diana to safety. Oh gee, I wonder where his hideout is. I mean, not that it's hard to track down a person who looks like Grimace's anorexic brother, but a giant freaking skull might be a little bit of a giveaway.
Oh yeah, because no one can figure out that Superman lives in a structure made out of giant icicles, could they? And no one could figure out that Batman lives in a cave that is right underneath Wayne Manor. Good lord, critic, you're really pushing the limits of credibility. You're complaining about things that are present in other films, and yet you don't complain about them, do you?
Keep what he just said about the critic not complaining about other films in mind. It's going to come back and bite him on the ass later.
And before you pull the old card of, oh well, it's not the same thing. It is the same thing.
So he meets up with his friend that we saw earlier as they try to figure out what's going on.
Captain, I want you to take her back. Use every man at your disposal, give her all the protection she needs.
I came here to do a job, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Goodbye.
Wait a second.
Diana, nobody argues with the Phantom and wins.
Mostly because the Phantom just runs away in the middle of the conversation. It's a cheap shot, but that's the Phantom.
Oh yeah, because Batman and Superman never ran away in the middle of conversations, did they?
So we see the Phantom go to New York. As it turns out, he has an alter ego named Kit, who of course Diana happened to know growing up.
Again, it was in the comic books. Do your research before you make such a silly statement.
They said...
I read about what happened. Are you alright?
Oh, I'm fine. It started out bad, but it all turned out okay.
I heard you were saved by a dashing, well-endowed purple man.
Okay, I'm gonna bite you in the ass with your own logic, critic. Okay, the purple joke was not funny the first time, wasn't funny the second time, wasn't funny the third time, and now for the fourth or fifth time, what is the answer? Oh yeah, it's not bloody funny! Okay, some jokes are one-trick horses. The purple joke was a one-trick horse, yet you're spreading out its corpse and it just fails miserably. Again, if you hadn't lied about the story and used the ghost subplot, you could have filled in quite a few jokes.
Two things. That wasn't really biting him in the ass, and two, I can do that gag as well. The first time you mentioned the research bit, it was a bullshit point. The second time you mentioned the research bit, it was a bullshit point. And by the 8th time you mentioned it, it was, what a shock, still a bullshit point.
But more important things are going on, as it turns out Zeta Jones is working for Drax, as he divulges his evil plans to his business partners.
There is opportunity in chaos. I give you the skull of Tuganda. This skull is one of 3. When all 3 skulls are united, they will produce a force more powerful than any army on Earth. The skulls will be ours, and all of the power that comes with them.
Don't you think we should invest in munitions, seeing how there's a war brewing in Europe?
Nope! Skulls!
How about a public works program with government backing?
Skulls! Nothing but skulls!
Well, how about diversifying our portfolio with...
Skulls! Skulls! Our entire financial future is completely skull-based! Now please be quiet!
Oh yes, because the Nazis totally never went for a holy grail or a cursed ark full of demonic, life-sucking ghosts, did they? And also this joke makes no sense historically, since this is 1936, and Hitler had as yet to become the big bad, the big menace that he ultimately became. This is going downhill at an unbelievable rate. I thought Chris Wars did horrible movie reviews, but this... Good God, all it is essentially a recycling of the same purple joke and making stupid points, comparing it to Indiana Jones, which of course you can pretty much say about any adventure film. You could say about The Mummy or National Treasure. Let's just continue.
Yeah, this is wrong. Skulls? Forces of darkness? This isn't right.
What businessman would honestly question a supernatural treasure hunt for an evil skull that has demonic powers?
Okay, Ray, that's how you feel about it.
Boy, you know, for a guy who probably spent days putting together the mechanics of that killer microscope, I'm surprised he resorted to the most basic of means by throwing a sharp stick. Surely he could have rigged the curtains to eat him or something.
I really hate repeating, but again, you're asking for logic in a comic book film, and if that was all a joke, it wasn't funny.
And as I said, just because it's a comic book movie does not excuse it for having bad writing. The fact remains that the villain's personality changed. That is an example of bad writing. That is not excusable. I'm sorry. We can't have him decide he wants to kill in an overly complicated method one way and then use a simple method the next. He needs to pick a style.
Stay it, Diana. You look great. You've not changed a bit.
You just vanished, kid.
I guess I did.
Is that a word? Is that a letter? Not even a phone call.
You just vanished like a phantom or a ghost who walks, if you will.
And once again you lied about the story, because he actually does explain why he left. His dad got murdered and he had to go back to Bengala to assume the role of Phantom. Again, you broke the rule.
So they find out that the second skull, coincidentally enough, is in a museum in New York. So the Phantom uses all his cunning secrecy and top secret ways to figure out a way to, okay, what is up with this guy? Superhero my ass! He couldn't cover up the fact that he was a superhero any more than Edward could cover up that he was a vampire!
Oh yeah, because the weird, awkward behavior of Bruce Wayne in the first Batman movie totally covers up the fact that he is Batman, doesn't it? And while you're at it, why don't you ask why those glasses cover up the fact that Clark Kent is Superman? Oh boy.
I think I've held on to my ace in the hole for long enough. Do you guys remember what he said earlier?
Complaining about things that are present in other films, and yet you don't complain about them, do you?
Given that line and the way he's been behaving during his commentary, I'm willing to bet Broadcast is assuming that The Phantom is the only superhero movie that the critic has an issue with. And that would be wrong. So I would present to you, the jury, a clip from the Nostalgia Critic's Top 11 Dumbest Superman Moments. Roll the clip.
Number 6. Those stupid glasses. From which movie? All of them. How come nobody can ever see past them? Is it really that great a disguise? Look, there's even a scene where Lois takes off Clark's glasses, leaving him totally exposed. Somebody friggin' notice him!
Okay, and now I'd like to present a clip from the beginning of that video.
Now, for as good as these movies get and as bad as these movies get, they all have their fill of stupid, stupid moments. Now, I know they're supposed to be lighter and more friendly, but most of the time they just come off as logically idiotic.
And here's another clip for good measure.
Gee, is he gonna fly through the city side by side with her like the first one? You bet. Is he gonna support her with just his fingertips, which the laws of weight and mass totally says is impossible? You know it. Is he going to let her fall just so he can swoop down and save her? Well, it wouldn't be a complete rip-off if he didn't, would it?
Do you see now, Broadcast? It's not just the Phantom he has an issue with. And you know, for somebody who kept preaching, do your research, do your research, do your research, you seem to have very minimal knowledge about this character's attitude towards these superhero movies.
I'll take that, thank you.
Oh, but I was so cautious.
Museum security. Everything's under control. Listen, folks. Free cake and sandwiches are being served in the Hall of Nature.
Cake and sandwiches?
Well, gee, I sort of wanted to know about that whole glass-breaking thing.
Me too, until he said cake and sandwiches, and now all I can think about is cake and sandwiches.
Wow! So it turns out when the two skulls join together, they point out the location of the third skull. And thankfully, there just so happened to be a map in the room to point out the location. Which is good, because it doesn't look nearly as dramatic to see the skulls type out the direction on Google Maps.
Just like there so happened to be a map in that underground room in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Again, this scene doesn't look the least bit like that other series of adventure movies. Hell, did they just have the same writer or something? Oh, holy shit, they did. I was just kidding! They really have the same writer? Well, that's really sad. What, did he really think that Indiana Jones would have been taken more seriously if he was dressed in the feces of Barney the dinosaur?
Again, if you did any research, you would know Jeffrey Boehm did not create the Phantom, it was Lee Falk. And also, the Phantom uncovered mystical treasures long before Indiana Jones, so stop complaining about it.
Danny, I'm going to borrow your quote. If we find flaws, we have every right to call them out. Just the same, this film has the same script writer, because I think the majority of us are smart enough to know it wasn't the original author, but that doesn't change the fact that this script writer didn't put any effort into making these fight scenes their own.
Doesn't make sense.
Oh well. Kid escapes and dresses up like the Phantom to save the day. That's my purple ass!
Oh hey, a purple man climbing out of an elevator. So how are the kids?
Forget him, he's not coming.
He's probably dead by now. What is wrong with you? Why are you so mean? Don't you care about anything? Like what? You figure it out.
All right, everybody just shut up.
That was a lame conversation.
Once again, you cut out the whole thing with his dad. They had a nice little discussion about the nature of the Phantom's life and about what happened to his father. But of course, you cut out that subplot, so you had to cut out all references of him, that and the fact that the cabbie driver was actually not, while not a great character, was at least an entertaining one.
So they stumble across the island of the third skull, where they find the ancient order of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
The Seng Brotherhood were in the comics. Again, few minutes of research.
Might you be?
He is the great Kabbai Seng, leader of the Seng Brotherhood.
As well as the Shang Tsung Brotherhood.
Your soul is mine.
But one of the business partners doesn't trust him and points a gun at their leader.
It's every man for himself. Okay, you get me out of here, or else you really gonna sleep with the fishes. Shinnibu? What's that supposed to mean?
Violent Ken.
Oh gee, maybe I should, shoot you or something. That is, after all, why I pointed the gun at you in the first place. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, why doesn't Donovan just shoot Indiana Jones after he drinks from the wrong cup in Last Crusade?
Fatality.
So the Phantom comes in to fight everybody off as Drax finally gets a hold of the third skull.
And again, you conveniently cut out the fact that the Phantom gets back his father's gun belt from the killer, which of course completes this little story arc. But of course, you cut it out, and once again, made the film seem more shallow than it really is.
But it turns out there's also a fourth skull, which is the most powerful of them all. The Deus Ex Machina skull, if you will.
I've worn it all my life. For protection. I never really understood what that meant until right now.
Ha! What a cheap jungle trick!
Ha! I am acting! So it turns out the fourth skull was on the Phantom's ring the whole time. Yeah, what a pretty weak twist.
If you were paying attention at the beginning of the film, you would have already guessed that the skull ring is the fourth skull. It doesn't take a lot of brain power, critic.
The fact that it's so obvious to figure out is what makes it so disappointing. So, sorry to break it to you, but this is indeed a weak and anticlimactic twist.
This is it to destroy Drax forever. What's up with all the explosions? Did the entire island just pass gas or something?
Oh yeah, because the temples and mines in the Indiana Jones films didn't just suddenly blow up, did they?
So they all get off the island safe. Zeta Jones is a good guy now. Sort of came out of nowhere.
Not really. If you paid attention during the fight scene, you would have noticed that she was fighting alongside the Phantom. Again, a little bit of attention, critic, doesn't kill you.
Dude, you're really gonna say that out loud and not think to yourself, wait, maybe it doesn't make sense because this film never showed any indication of her ever being a good guy.
Anna asked the Phantom to reveal his true identity.
Before I go, take off your mask. Let me see your face. Kit.
Yeah, you really weren't fooling anybody with that. It's kind of embarrassing.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't obvious that Clark Kent is Superman or that Bruce Wayne is Batman, is it?
So he takes off his mask and spontaneously his eye makeup too, as he confesses something important to her.
You know, I'm not really permitted to reveal all of my secrets. Actually, I am, but only to one person.
Who's that?
The woman I intend to marry.
I don't know if that's wise, lady. Here's the last woman he tried to marry.
My wife in practice, if not yet by law, so you will honor me.
Bit of a buzzkill. So, oddly enough, she doesn't marry him, as I guess they're saving that for the incredible sequel that'll never ever come.
No, dummy, it was said at the end of the film. The Phantom's father narrated the fact that Diana would return to the jungle to marry him. And also, it was in the comics. Again.
Would you shut up about the goddamn comics? It wasn't a good point the first time, and it certainly wasn't a good point by the 11th time. And besides that, you already mentioned that they had said what had happened in the film. That would have sufficed just fine.
A few minutes on the internet, critic, doesn't kill you.
And thank Lord, because this movie was stupid. It's not the worst ever, but it's just so unimpressive. We don't really get to know the Phantom well, and what we do know, we don't really care that much about.
Well, that's because you lied about the story and didn't bring up the fact that he is also on a mission to recover his father's gun belt and let his father's soul rest in peace.
Fight scenes are standard, the villain's pretty standard, and... yeah, purple? Really? I just can't get over that. You picked fucking purple. Why didn't you just paint polka dots on his head while you were at it?
Again, it was in the comic books. Few minutes on the internet, critic. I really hate repeating myself.
But, thankfully, there is one upside to this movie. Only problem is I can't get it back to the downside. I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you...
And well, people, that was the Nostalgia Critic's Phantom review, and holy damn, it's as bad as you've heard it is. I mean, why? Why was this review even made? He doesn't cover the action scenes, makes up completely ridiculous complaints against the film, which again, you could level against any other comic book or adventure film, and also he shows he did absolutely no research on the character, complaining about things which were in the original comic book. The Phantom by no means is a great film. Indeed, it does come off as a poor man's Indiana Jones, but I'll be damned, it's a entertaining film. It's what you call perfect Saturday afternoon entertainment. As the movie nut, I would give the film a bronze star. Well, that does it for this commentary. Thanks for watching, and goodbye, people.